was always me versus me. It was never me versus you. Misunderstood. Get up, had to beat those odds. Got up and I beat those odds. Misunderstood. It was always me versus me. It was never me versus you. And now I'm good. Wake up and I do my part. Wake up and I do my job. Just how I should. It was always me versus me. It was never me versus you. Misunderstood. Get up, had to beat those odds. Got up and I beat those odds. Misunderstood. It was always me versus me. It was never me versus you.
Sorry about that. So I was automatically muted when I put my video on. So welcome to Built in Buffalo Live. This is First and Five with DM3. I'm the founder and the owner of Built in Buffalo. Good afternoon, this happy Thursday, wherever you guys are. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. This is going to be the last weekend without Buffalo Bills football for a very, very long time. Obviously, we have the Thursday night kickoff of the NFL, and then the Bills play the Cardinals Sunday at home in Orchard Park. So a couple things. Let's get this out of the way. I did do this already, but we'll do it again. Smash the like button wherever you're watching this. If you're watching this on YouTube, smash the like button. This helps the algorithm. If you like what we're doing at Built in Buffalo, if you like what I'm doing here at Built in Buffalo on our YouTube channel, please smash the like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when all of our shows go live and when all of our pre-recorded videos are put out there. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and share this to the Bills backers groups, share this to any groups you're a part of, or just share it on your personal page, wherever you like. If you like what we're doing, and if you're watching this on X, please smash the like button. We have a lot to talk about. A lot of stuff come across the news feed the past 3 days. Obviously, we saw the big topic of Josh Allen again being called overrated in a players poll. Again, players not named in this poll, saying that Josh Allen's overrated. We'll get into that. We have Babich officially being announced as the Buffalo Bills defensive play caller, and the Bills signed former Minnesota Vikings first-round draft pick Lewis Cine, 2022 first-round draft pick. He was signed to the Bills practice squad, so we can get into that. Again, I see the comments coming through. I apologize. Beginning of the video was muted. Again, a couple hiccups here. I just wanted to jump on here real quick. So I'm glad you guys can hear me now. Thank you for everybody that's tuned in. So let's start with Bobby Babich. And back in the spring, around February, March, when Bobby Babich was named the defensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, I did a live show with Akeem Richens, the co-founder of Built in Buffalo, and he asked me the question, do you think that Bobby Babich should be calling plays this year? And I said, absolutely. If we are in this season of youth movement, if we're in this season of transition, which a lot of people like to categorize the Bills, I think this is absolutely the year. If you give him the position, you need to give him the play calling duties. it's a lot easier for me to look at it from the perspective of, if you give it to him and then down the road, if things aren't clicking like they should be, you hit week 5, 6, 7, 8, what have you, Sean McDermott can always step in and say, you know, okay, look, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to be your mentor. You've been with me. You've rocked with me since 2017 when I got here, when you were a DB's coach, you were a linebackers coach. Now the whole unit is yours. And I feel like it would be easier to do that than have Sean McDermott start the season calling plays and then you give it to Bobby Babich. If he starts the season calling plays, Sean McDermott, he's going to call plays all season. And then at that point, if you're Bobby Babich, at what point do you look at Sean McDermott, your mentor, and say, "Hey, when is it my time to shine? You know, you've given me the position. We're going with the youth movement." And personally, on a personal note, I like the aspect of both of the coordinators are going lockstep with this youth movement, right? You have Joe Brady on offense calling the plays, young guy, he brings a lot of energy, and you have Bobby Babich, who is probably going to be up in the booth because he's full of energy too. And we already saw some flashes of that in preseason with Bobby Babich getting excited about how his team was performing. I like the fact that the youth movement is not just on the roster, it's actually in the coaching aspect of it as well, because Bobby Babich, we've seen he's very energetic. He's very outspoken. On top of the fact that he's very intelligent, he's a very smart guy, and I like the fact that if you watch the Pittsburgh Steelers preseason game, I think a lot of it was on full display. The Bills, I feel like, are going to be more aggressive, and that is just an extension of what Bobby Babich is. I feel like the Bills have a lot of athletic linebackers. The Bills have a lot of young talent up front on the defensive line. They brought back AJ Epinesa. You already have Ed Oliver. You have Gregory Rousseau. So I think this is going to be, something to watch, how aggressive. The Bills were a lot more aggressive last year, and that was an extension of Sean McDermott. So I think, like a comment here, I think Bobby will do fine. I absolutely think that Bobby has been groomed for this position. And if the defense performs well, I wouldn't be surprised if next offseason that Bobby Babich is in line for head coaching interviews. That's just me. And same thing can be said with Joe Brady. If he comes in and the Bills offense, which everyone's predicting to have a down year because of the turnover on offense, the in personnel, Stephon Diggs is gone. Gabe Davis is gone. You have this receiver by committee. You still have Josh Allen. And I think that if, this offense produces and the Bills win games, make the playoffs, and Josh Allen has a really good controlled year where he's extremely accurate with, what everybody's talking about, everybody eats in this offense. I think it's going to be another thing where Joe Brady might be getting some consideration for head coaching positions, because I feel like when he was in Carolina, he was the scapegoat for how bad that roster was. He was a scapegoat for how bad that head coach was. But Joe Brady got production, out of, those players. He got production out of Curtis Samuel. When you have Teddy Bridgewater, your starting quarterback, no knock on Teddy Bridgewater, but he's not an elite caliber quarterback. But then you look at what you look at what Bobby Babich has done. He was obviously the DB's coach / safeties coach, and we all know how Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer performed. They were all pros, right? And now a lot of that is, yes, on the players, but a lot of that goes in with coaching. And then the best year that Tremaine Edmonds had with the Bills was when Bobby Babich was leading the linebackers. He was a linebackers coach. So I think you look at the development of guys like Terrell Bernard, you look at the development of guys like Ed Oliver, and I think this Bills defense is going to be top 5 this year. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I feel like this is going to be another year where there may be some time beginning in the season when the Bills offensively are trying to figure out the routine. They're trying to figure out, what is going to work and what's not. And we as Bills fans have to be patient with how we analyze what the Bills do offensively this year. And I know this is about Bobby Babich, but he's going to have Sean McDermott right there with him. So I feel like Sean McDermott will always get guys to play and mold them into the system that he wants, because there is a lot of turnover at the safety position. You know, we don't have Matt Milano, and who knows how long he's going to be out for. But there is still a lot of really good talent on this defensive roster. Ed Oliver, I think Greg Rousseau, we saw what he could do against Pittsburgh. You know, you still have Daquan Jones. You know, you have Terrell Bernard. You know, you have Dorian Williams, who's going into year 2, who I think is going to take the next step. You have a Christian Benford, who I think is the number 1 cornerback on the team. Say what you want, and I love Rasul Douglas, but say what you want. And then you had all the turnover at safety. You got Taylor Rapp. You brought in Mike Edwards. We don't know when Cole Bishop's going to see the field. They just signed Lewis Cine to the practice squad. So it's going to be interesting to watch, and I expect a lot of big things from Bobby Babich this year. I love the energy he brings. It's a breath of fresh air, because we saw for years, and no knock on Leslie Frazier, but we saw for years just the stoic look on his face, even when the team was performing well, as opposed to when the Bills were crushing the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line, and Greg Rousseau and those guys were getting after it. And Buffalo Joe Andreessen was getting after it. You saw the excitement and you saw the enthusiasm from Bobby Babich up in the booth. So I love it. Monster coming in. Shout out to Monster. The Monster logo needs to be bigger. Monster is shouting out the Monster logo. I love it. So let's talk about Lewis Cine, because a lot of people are just kind of scoffing at this move. He was an outcast from Minnesota. He didn't live up to the potential, being a number 1 or first round pick, you know, for the Minnesota Vikings, playing for Georgia. I feel like this is the perfect player for Sean McDermott to mold into something that he wants. He's very, you know, he's a lean 198, 202 pounds, but he's 6'2". He brings something to that safety room that is lacking right now in that size. You have DeMar Hamlin, you have Taylor Rapp, you have Mike Edwards, you have Cole Bishop. So I feel like this is a guy I don't think is going to spend too much time on the practice squad, but I also don't think the Bills are going to carry 6 safeties throughout the season. They just won't do that. There's positions elsewhere, whether it be the offensive line, if they add a 10th guy, whether they want to do something with the defensive line. But I posed this question on X/Twitter earlier today, is if the Bills do elevate Cine to the active 53, who does that leave off the roster? Is it Casey Toohill, who, to me, I'm still baffled by the fact that he made the 53. We didn't see him hardly at all in training camp. We didn't see him in any preseason action. I guess the Bills are just trusting, you know, what he did in small sample size with the Washington Commanders. He had 5 sacks last year, you know, playing when they had some injuries. Is this time where DeMar Hamlin may be, you know, stepping aside? But the Bills like DeMar Hamlin. You know, they obviously went through what they went through with him in 2022. He was a shell of himself last year, but there's a lot of signs of his growth back into the player that he was in 2002, pre the incident that he had, where he did have 100 tackles. He did fill in for Micah Hyde when Micah Hyde went out week 2 that year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bring him along. Which is funny, because it was reported by everyone that he was going to sign with the Minnesota Jets, only for him to sign with the Bills practice squad. So I do like that aspect, that he chose Buffalo. He chose a different developmental path. He's still a young guy. He's 24 years old. So he still has growth. He still has room to improve. And that old saying from Sean McDermott, come to Buffalo and be the better version of yourself. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see once he gets here, he gets some practice under his belt. You know, we see that this roster, I feel, will still be kind of fluid heading into this weekend and the beginning stages of next week. I don't think the final 53 is the final 53. I think there will be a couple pieces that will be moved around. I'm still concerned about Mitch Trubisky. Is he going to be ready to go week 1 as the Bills' backup? They brought in Mike White. Is Mike White going to be a guy that can be elevated from the practice squad? Because I think that they may put Mitch Trubisky on a 2 or 4 week IR stint, and then that way you have Mike White. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you like the signing? How do you feel about the signing? Is this a player that raw ability that McDermott and Bean like. I think it's going to be interesting. So I don't think I said Minnesota Jets. He was drafted by Minnesota, and then reports came out this morning that Lewis Cine was going to sign with the Jets, only to sign with the Bills practice squad. So not quite sure if that came across that way, but that's that. And then the last thing I want to touch on, because I don't want to be on here, forever, because we do have another show coming at 2. We got T and Mike with not another podcast in the 716, and then we also have the Hoof podcast tonight. I just wanted to jump on and talk about some of the news that was happening. Again, I started the show talking about Bobby Babich. Sean McDermott has announced that he will be calling plays for defense. He will be up in the booth. Babich has even said on several press conferences that he needs to be up in the booth because of his aggressive nature. And he doesn't want to be out there, cussing out referees and things like that. And then the Bills have signed free agent safety Lewis Cine, formerly a first-round pick of the Minnesota Vikings back in 2022, played for Georgia, was going to sign with the Jets, but opted to sign with the Bills practice squad, which just throwing another little jab at an inner division rival New York Jets. So yesterday, I woke up to 1,000 tweets all over social media, videos on YouTube, videos wherever you watch your videos, of this poll by these unanimous NFL players that said Josh Allen was the number one. He received the most votes as the number one overall overrated player in the NFL. Now, we remember a while back when there was a unanimous NFL executive or scout that said that Josh Allen was overrated. I personally love that this came out, 10 days before the season starts, because if you want to poke the bear, please poke the bear. And Josh Allen even went on a podcast yesterday with Mad Dog and said that he doesn't mind. He's just mad that he didn't get invited to vote in these polls that come out every year. Most overrated, the biggest trash talker, most exciting, all these things. So I think it's funny that you're going to talk about a guy being overrated who's had the most total touchdowns in the NFL since 2020. The only player in NFL history to have 40 total touchdowns 4 consecutive years. The only quarterback in NFL history to have a perfect postseason game. The only quarterback in the NFL to do the things he did in 2 consecutive games, when it was against the New England Patriots and then against the Kansas City Chiefs. And you can knock his turnovers all you want. Should Josh Allen not have this gunslinger mentality? Sure, fine. But that also makes Josh Allen who he is as a player. He will come flat out and tell you he's not going to change. He's not going to change who he is. He's not going to change the fact that he wants to make plays for this team to win games. And if you look at it from this perspective, is there a quarterback on any other team who is asked to do more than Josh Allen is? 85% of the Bills' offensive touchdowns last year, Josh Allen accounted for 85% of those. Say what you want. Call him a goal line tush-push merchant, whatever you want. 6 points is 6 points. And when Sean McDermott needs to get a play, when Sean McDermott needs to get a first down, when Sean McDermott needs to get a touchdown, he has a guy that is going to do that. Now, you talk all this talk, you want to talk about Patrick Mahomes. You want to talk about, he's done just as much with less last year. Well, last time I checked, he had a Hall of Fame tight end, and he had a number 2 top 3 overall defense last year that bailed him out in some situations. Have the Bills had a good defense since Josh has been here? Sure. But there's been times when Josh Allen has been asked to carry this team, put the cape on, be Superman, break glass in case of emergency. So my thing is, I don't know how you call a guy overrated. I think maybe it's some players that were scorned by Josh Allen. Maybe it's some players that just don't like his play style. Maybe it's some players that just don't like that he has become the face of the NFL. If you like it or not, he just is. So I don't know. That's it. I mean, if you want to call a guy overrated, look at what I just laid out here. Josh Allen he's done things that nobody else has. Whether you want to call them obscure stats, whether you want to call it his 15 rushing touchdowns last year, stealing from his running backs, he's asked to go out there and score. He's asked to do what win games, and that score points. And if you go back and look at the Kansas City Chiefs divisional round game from last year, Josh Allen did just about everything he could to win that game. He didn't make Stephon Diggs drop that 70-yard dime that he dropped in a breadbasket. He didn't make Trent Sherfield drop passes. There was games when guys were dropping balls or running routes incorrectly. Look at the Eagles game. Josh Allen, if Gabe Davis turns in on that pass instead of heading towards the pylon, that's a touchdown. Bills win that game. There's been so many times throughout his career where he's put this team on his back and carried this team. So for him to be called overrated, I think is a little crazy. I'm actually putting together a Josh Allen set of videos that's going to come out a day after another, one after another here, starting this weekend. It's going to be playoffs. It's going to be against the Dolphins. It's going to be just locked in Josh Allen plays. So be on the lookout for that. Those will probably be on all of our social media platforms. Again, I see a comment in there saying only 100 players surveyed. That's fine. Still, he was the number one target. I think he had a target on his back, and it is what it is. But to kind of recap what we've gone over here, and I'm sure you'll see a lot more content coming out about this. Bobby Babich, absolute key decision for Sean McDermott. I said way back in March that he should have been calling plays this season. It makes too much sense. You're in a transition season. Why not completely, just dial in the transition and have both of your young gun coordinators calling plays, and Joe Brady and Bobby Babich. They both bring a ton of energy. I think it resonates with the players. I think they can relate to these guys. On top of the fact that Sean McDermott needs to focus more on in-game management. I don't mind how he called plays last year. I thought the defense was exciting last year. I thought there was a lot more aggressiveness to the defensive line because, as Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott have always said, the game is won in the trenches. We have to be aggressive, and I think that will continue this year. Lewis Cine, free agent safety, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings, first-round pick in 2022. Was released earlier this week, had a visit with the Jets, or a meeting with the Jets, and ultimately it was reported by everybody in every outlet that he was going to sign with the Jets, only for him to sign with the Buffalo Bills practice squad. I firmly don't think that he's going to last too long on the practice squad. I put some stuff out there on social media earlier. I've gotten some pushback saying the Bills won't carry 6 safeties. I agree. I don't think they'll carry 6 safeties. I think that there's going to be some movement on the Bills' 53-man roster. I think that you could see some guys either being waived, pushed down to the practice squad, and stuff like that. I think that it may not happen right away, I feel like, but once the Bills get this guy in the building and they get him in this system, I think the system was built for a guy like Lewis Cine. He's a raw athlete. He's young. He's 24. He's still got a lot to learn. And I think McDermott, who we all call the safety whisperer, I think will have a big hand in developing him and bringing him along. The Bills practice squad, by the way, is just loaded with talent. And I love the fact that Brandon Beane found some sort of a loophole in the international player program by putting Kingsley Jonathan as a guy who cannot be poached by other teams because he was born in Nigeria. So he's actually counts for the international player program. So he can be on the practice squad all season. He can be called up. He can't be taken or claimed by other teams. So that's something to look at. I did touch on the fact that I liked the Mike White signing earlier this week that we broke live on Going Deep Wednesday night. If you guys have a chance, it's on the channel. If you guys have a chance, go check out all the live shows on the channel. It's there. And by the way, if you guys aren't following us, all of our social media is in the description down below. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on X/Twitter. Obviously here on YouTube, and we're also on TikTok. So if you guys want to check all that stuff out, if you guys want to follow me for some of my rants and Bills takes on X. It's right there at Dave Myers BIB. Follow all the other content creators. We have some other news coming out probably later today about other Buffalo sports that we're going to be covering. So check that out. And again, I think this Josh Allen overrated talk is crazy. I don't know why people do it. I don't know if it's that time of season where people just want to get, things out there if there's a vendetta against Josh. But personally, I love it. You want to do this 10 days before the season. The Bills, the past few years, I will say this, the past few years, the Buffalo Bills have been a Super Bowl favorite. We've seen all of the Vegas odds come out seemingly since 2021, 22, 23. This year, they've dropped down in the odds, and I like the Buffalo Bills as an underdog. I like that mentality for this team. Please keep counting these guys out. And I made an analogy, and this is how I'm going to end the show. I made an analogy, and I understand the landscape of the AFC has changed. I understand that draft after draft after draft, year after year after year, teams are finding their franchise quarterbacks. The AFC is absolutely loaded with top-tier quarterback talent. But if you look back at the 2017 Buffalo Bills roster, say what you want about how they made the playoffs, say what you want about how we lucked in and needed help, from the Cincinnati Bengals, Andy Dalton, and all that. But if you look at the roster and how it was constructed in 2017, the Bills went 9-7, were a wild card. Yes, they lost in the wild card round, but Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback. Say what you want about Tyrod Taylor, had a fairly decent season, didn't turn the ball over, just managed the offense. The defense was lights out. That was McDermott's first year. Him and Leslie Frazier started to install what will become the stalwart for this team. They made the playoffs. The offensive roster had LaShawn McCoy, Charles Clay, and a bunch of other guys that are no longer in the league, right? Or were no longer in the league very shortly after that season. If you look at that roster compared to offensively, how that roster is compared to how the Bills are built offensively this year, this roster offensively is hands down better than that 2017 roster. And again, I understand the quarterback play in the AFC. Teams have gotten a lot better, especially within the AFC East. But if you look at how that roster was constructed and the Bills were able to make it because of a strong defense and just managing offense, right? That was Rico Dennison. That was Tyrod Taylor. That was LaShawn McCoy, who was starting to peak in his career. Look at what this roster has. Wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, offensive line, and quarterback, hands down, all better than that team. Hands down. And people say, well, you don't have a bona fide number one alpha receiver. Well, you don't have a bona fide, LaShawn McCoy type guy. Well, you have a James Cook. You have a Curtis Samuel. You have a Khalil Shakir. Don't sleep on Khalil Shakir, please. He is not just going to be a slot receiver. He is going to be a guy who's going to come in and contribute, and he's going to make some plays. You can line him up wherever you want. You have a Dalton Kincaid. You have a rookie in Keon Coleman. So, don't sleep on this offense. This offensive line was top 5 in the NFL last year. And oh yeah, by the way, those guys are all back. You just slid Connor McGovern over to center, and now David Edwards, who was here, is now your starting left guard. And it's deep. This roster is deep on offensive line. So don't sleep on this offense. I think it's going to be a work in progress until they figure things out. I feel like it's going to be one of those offenses where one week one guy's going to make some big plays, the next week another guy's going to make some big plays. And the constant here is going to be James Cook and Dalton Kincaid. You're going to get tons and tons and tons of targets and touches, and it's going to be an offense that we haven't seen before. And this offense is going to have motion every play. It's going to be things that are going to blow our minds. So I'm going to end this on that note. If you guys like what we're doing here at Built in Buffalo, please like this video. Please drop some comments if you watch this now, if you watch this on the rewatch, wherever you're watching this. This is something that I'm going to start doing more and more of. We're going to have, a lot of live content, a lot of pre-recorded content, a lot of Bills content, and we do have some surprises coming up for some other content that we're going to carry on the Built in Buffalo network across all of social media. So I'm DM3. If you guys like what we did, smash that like. I'll see you on the next video. And as always, go Bills.